time, Magneto.
My mutant brain senses danger.
Something unseen is slowly spreading its poison, edging tempers.
Think carefully before you do this.
You filthy criminals.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All right. Well, we're live. Nate can't see my screen, but we are live. Let me see if I can fix that.
I can just pull up stream.
Bear with me. Okay, cool. Well, hey, we're live. Episode 31. Two Fat Guys Pull Us. Gonna take care of some business as we always.
Damn.
31, dude. 31. Hold on, I gotta go to full screen real quick.
Okay.
Just because.
Yes.
Hold on, I gotta. So if I'm. So I'd push 1, 2, 3. So let's come back. No, it didn't work. Shit. Okay. We'll just do this. Okay. So we're going to take care of some business really quick before we start the show. First of all, if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure to make sure to click that subscribe button and hit that bell for us, please. It would be greatly appreciated. And then also the other piece of business we're going to talk about is our new March Two Fat Guys Pool List mystery pool. And Nate is going to break down what you usually get in it, and then we'll talk about the more specifics.
So mystery pool is going to be 1 store exclusive, 4 to 7 back issues consisting of anything between silver, bronze, and modern books. And then everyone also gets a chance at a big key. Normally you'd get a chance at it. This week I'm winning it for sure. You can't have it. So
that's not true.
Sorry.
That's not true.
That's not. We're
No,
not.
you
We're not rigging it for you to win.
You're not. You're not getting it.
Oh, damn.
Sorry. No.
Okay, well, I might have to buy myself one then.
Well, the reason why Nate wants to win the big key that we're giving away, or that Ron's giving away, is it's this 9.8 Department of Truth CBCS graded #1. So this is the book that you can possibly win if you subscribe to our mystery pool, the Two Fat Guys mystery pool. So that's a pretty hefty book there. It just that book, Tinian's book, just got picked up for either a TV show or a movie. It's a pretty big deal. So that's the one thing you'll get, and then the other thing you'll get. So, like Nate said, you'll get a store exclusive as well. Everybody will get a store exclusive. So last week we gave away, Ron gave away Venom 32, I believe. It was a pretty sick, Mortal Kombat variant, a fighter screen. And so this month, we're giving away Ron's giving away the Neil Adams Joker issue #1 cover. Pretty sick retro looking cover there. I'm not even into DC Comics that much, and I really dig this cover. So this if you've subscribed already or you will subscribe, you will get this book for sure, and then you have a chance to win that 9.8 CBCS graded Department of Truth #1. So that being said, we're gonna start the show and start talking about some comics this week. This was the week of #1s for sure.
So many good ones too.
Oh my gosh, I think we had 5 or 6 #1s, and so we're just gonna kick it off. So we're gonna usually we would start with our King and Black books, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna start off with a pretty awesome book, I might say, and that book is Demon Days X-Men #1 from Peach Momoko.
Oh yeah.
So we initially reviewed the preview of this book last week or 2 weeks ago, and we were really impressed with it. We really enjoyed the art style, we enjoyed the writing, we enjoyed the story, and this book continues that, obviously. What I find interesting is the preview we got in King and Black 4 for this book was either something that's going to happen later on in the issues, or it was a story that may have gotten cut, because that story was not in this book.
No, it said it was a prelude to this.
I gotcha. Well, I enjoyed that. So
yes.
I guess so. We'll cut it down to here. So we get a village. Or before that, we even get a breakdown of the relationship between humans and demons or Onis. Onis live in the mountains, and they, if you leave them be, if you leave their space be, they'll leave you alone. They're peaceful beings. But when you start encroaching on them and taking over their lands and killing their resources, they're going to come into your village and pillage. And so what I really like about this book is Peach Momoko blends traditional Japanese traditions and like stories into characters that we know through the Marvel Universe. Obviously, Psylocke. We get, I believe, Danny Moonstar. We get Jubilee. We get the Hulk. We get Venom. And am I missing any other ones? I think that's it.
I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh no, Logan. Shit.
Oh yes, her wolf.
Freaking Logan. So, if you haven't read the Prelude, Logan is a actual wolf in this book, which is really cool. But anyway, so what happens is we get the whole idea of the Onis coming into the villages and pillaging because humans are desecrating their mountain and desecrating their forests. And so Danny Moonstar, who again in this book, I don't think I'm almost certain nobody has mutant powers. It's more of like these are these characters if they were in feudal Japan.
Yeah.
So our Danny Moonstar character is kind of like this rebellious youth who is just fed up with the Onis, like, ransacking their village. So she's gonna take it to him. She's not gonna put up with it anymore. And so she chases one that that was like attacking the village. Well, wasn't attacking the village. He was eating food. He was eating their food, and she got all pissed off with it. And she starts chasing it, and it runs away. And when she's coming back to the village, Psylocke, who is kind of like a Ronin character, she's just kind of a wandering swordsman, overhears Moonstar basically saying like, "Hey, like, I hate these freaking Onis," and she's like, "Oh, that's something I can get into. I'm kind of like a sellsword, so hire me and I'll take care of your problem." And so she finds out that the problem is like the Oni is eating their crops, eating their food, and so Sai, being the way she is, she knows how to deal with demons, and basically the way to do it is not to be violent, to talk to the Oni, to basically tell it like, I will promise that I'll let the humans not mess with your forest. In turn, you don't steal their crops, right? So she tracks it down, and before she can track it down, 2 other villagers show up, and they're like, "Hey, somebody just got eaten by a giant demon." And they're like, "What?" So they go to a shrine, and this is where it gets crazy. So there is a giant, what looks like Venom, inside this temple, and what we find out is Venom has, this is the one thing that is very Marvel, in the sense that the Venom has found a new host, and the host is the Oichi, which is a giant serpent demon. And so it is consumed, or it is connected with this giant serpent. And so it's feeding off of villagers, like literally eating villagers. Like there's a scene where someone's like, "Run away," and the Venom Oichi just like completely devours a human being, one of the villagers.
Yeah, he completely splats on the stairs outside the palace.
That was my oh shit for this book. I was like, oh, that's yeah, that sucks. So there's basically 2 problems in this book. You've got the Oni, who is messing with the villagers, and then you have this Venom Oichi, who is also killing villagers. The difference is that the Oni is just trying to survive. The Venom Oichi is just a piece of shit. So there's 2 different problems. So Sai is in charge of getting control of the Oni, whereas Moonstar goes and sees like I forget what they're called. It's basically a shaman, or it's not a shaman. I forget what she puts it in the book.
Yeah.
The terminology.
A Jushi,
which is like a witch or a wizard, and so the witch or wizard is portrayed by Jubilee, and so she's had like a remedy to subdue Oichi, but it's very temporary. And so basically she's been selling them like firecrackers, which I think is kind of funny because that's Jubilee's mutant power. So her thing is to make firecrackers and scare the Venom symbiote off of the Serpent. So Sai does her thing. She talks to or she doesn't talk. She actually fights the Oni, which is actually called, it's basically the Hulk. It's their version of the Hulk.
It's Red Hulk too.
Red Hulk, yeah. And she subdues him and says, listen, you help us. I'll make sure that the humans no longer mess with you and mess with your land, and vice versa. You do the same. And he's like, okay, I'm trusting you. And so you have this coalition of Moonstar, Psylocke, Red Hulk, and Jubilee taking on this demon, this Oichi Venom. And it's a pretty intense fight scene. Like they're going back and forth. They're throwing the firecrackers. Sai's dodging, and I believe the firecrackers are what like essentially get it to start getting off of the snake.
Yeah.
And then I think it's like Logan and Moonstar kind of just everybody attacks it at once essentially.
Mm-hmm. Well, it acts just like a normal symbiote, right? So loud noises and fire are sort of its weakness. So as they're going off, it's literally splattering off of this snake.
Right. And so they just kind of go at it for a while to the point where they subdue it. And the symbiote eventually is able to get off the snake. And Oichi, essentially, once it gets off of him, he disappears. And so they save the day. And, everybody is the Oni is happy. The villagers are happy. Logan ends up getting hurt in the middle of it, but he heals quickly. I thought that was kind of a nice little odd to Wolverine and his healing factors, but he does get scratched in the eye, so he's kind of got like a war wound. And then Sai continues her journey, and she like helps the villagers, and she leaves. And then the book ends with basically a girl reading this story like a manga essentially. Mm-hmm. And you're like, whoa. So like, she was reading like either a story or a piece of history, and then she's told to go to bed. Like she's like living in a house with like a carekeeper, and the caretaker it looks like it's Black Widow.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's sick. So like that's where the story ends, but we also see Logan back at the old shrine where the story took place, and he's kind of like keeping a watchful eye. And then it cuts, and then we get a really cool detailed page of like what each character kind of represents within traditional Japanese folklore, which I thought was really neat. I thought it was a nice like ode to like, hey, like you may not know what these things are, but if you'd like to know what these things really represent in Japan, we're gonna tell you. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was really neat because like the Oichi character, I've known that character through other mediums, like through video games. So it was kind of neat to like read up even more on that, which I thought was cool. And then like the Oni, there's a red and blue Oni. They're pretty predominant in other like animes, like they're in Dragon Ball, and like they're like goofy characters. But I like the fact that they had like that folklore tale about how between the red and the blue, and how the red was being mistreated, and so the blue Oni tried to he cooked up a plan to make sure that he was well taken care of, and then the blue Oni ended up dying to get the other one to feel better. So that was kind of crazy, but just nice with that. And then we get a preview to the next Demon Days book, which is going to follow the girl that we were introduced in the end of this issue, and then we got Black Widow there. It's not coming out until June, and I'm really sad about that. Like I'm gonna pick it up, but man, that's a long time. But I think
when you've got someone writing it, drawing it, and coloring it, that makes sense.
No, it makes total sense. I mean, she's putting the attention to detail in this book is phenomenal. And if you skipped out on this book on Wednesday, if they still have copies at your local comic book shop, I highly recommend picking this up, because it's a really good book, and like the cover is really good. I think Peach blew it out of the water for sure.
Yeah, I would say, especially if you're watching this and you are, going right away saying, "Oh, it's Peach. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to read it." I honestly think that both the art and the story here are good enough to stand on their own. So if like the story of like a Ronin and a almost like a Seventh Samurai sort of thing, if that really appeals to you, but the art doesn't, I would say still read this anyway because the story is fantastic. But I would also say if the story doesn't sound like that's really your cup of tea, but you like this more Japanese-inspired manga style art, which I'm not into traditionally. I've never read manga personally, but this book was like a breath of fresh air, I think, in my weekly pull list. I think it was, a little bit of a different culture, a little bit of a different style than I'm used to, and I really enjoyed it.
I think it, like you're saying, a breath of fresh air. Like, and I'm not saying we're bogged down in King and Black tie-ins, but I think it definitely was like, if you're trying to like, just like you said, just try to get into something new, this is definitely it. And Peach even said, like, I think she said on Twitter, everybody that loves Sai, like, she'll be back, but don't be what was the word? Just don't be too not necessarily attached, but she won't be in the next book. Like, yeah, it's gonna be jumping around. But either way, like, I think I don't know how many parts this is. I don't know if it's 4 or 6. But when there's a collected, whatever the collected is, which I'm assuming will be like a manga style format, I'm definitely picking this up. Like,
that would be pretty cool. A different format, kind of like what they did with Strange Academy.
Yeah, and I think that would be. I mean, I'll put that on my shelf immediately when FOC comes out for that. Doing it. Probably won't come out until next year, but whatever.
at this pace, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, well done, Peach. Keep it up. This is amazing. And I know we're starting the show, but this is my pick of the week. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right at the beginning.
This is my pick of the week, and we've got a new sound alert for the pick of the week. So I'm going to say again, this is my pick of the week. That's the pick of the week gong.
I can't hear it, but
I know you can't, but you'll hear it when you watch it. When you watch it back, you'll hear it. Hey, what up, Maddie? Thanks for joining us, man. I'm really happy you're here. So, next up, we got Hellions, number 10. I know you were... Sorry, I'm scratching my head. It's a little itchy. I know you were not... I can already tell by your face you weren't impressed with this issue.
No, I wouldn't say that.
But I really enjoyed this issue, and it's because... And again, I don't have a lot of experience with Mastermind and... Or is it Mastermind? No. Game...
Well, Mastermind and...
Mastermind and this guy.
God damn it.
What's his name?
You messed me up.
Game guy.
No,
Danger
Game
Room
Guy.
boy.
The
Chucky.
fuck?
The adult Chucky. What's his name?
Just keep going on and I'll tell you because I can't remember.
No, it's going to bug me too.
Yeah, but if you just...
Murder boy. Anyway. I thought I don't have a lot of experience with those villains, and this issue scared the fuck out of me. Because that dude is sinister as hell. Did you get it? Oh, anyway. So let's just cut back. It goes to Sinister sitting in a room with this guy, which I can't remember his name, and Nate's going to find out. It's the minute you say it. Arcade. Okay. Arcade is a sinister little
Now
fuck.
I hate him even more.
Dude's an asshole. Like, so the comic starts with him torturing Mr. Sinister, and they apparently had some kind of deal, and Arcade backstab Sinister. We don't know what that deal is. We have no clue.
No, him and Mastermind had a deal.
But I thought Sinister had a deal with Arcade as well. That's what it felt like.
Maybe I missed it, but I didn't see that at all.
Well, we'll have to go back. But either way, Sinister is he is 100% at a loss for words. And so the entire time he's having a conversation with Arcade is like, all right, so Sinister's sitting in front of me, confirm? And then there's a voice that says confirmed. And every sentence he says or does, he asks somebody to confirm it. And the reason why he has that set up is that he wants to make sure that Mastermind isn't pulling the wool over his eyes as well. And so he's got a dude like, I don't know, 27 however many blocks away in a warehouse watching him, and every time he says confirmed, that guy has to say confirmed to make sure that Arcade knows that he's not being fucked with. That's fucking crazy. And so they've got this deal, and essentially what Arcade wants to make clones of himself from Sinister. So he wants access to Sinister's cloning program. And immediately Sinister's like, fine, you have it, done. And Arcade goes, well, that wasn't fun. So I'm going to pull your teeth out, and then we're going to make it look like you said yes after that.
Oh, man.
So, you know, throughout this issue, Sinister is getting his teeth pulled out by Arcade, while our Hellion friends are in their own nightmares by Mastermind. And some pretty sick shit. Like, Psylocke is in one where she's, you know, caring for her daughter, and it looks like feudal Japan. Havoc is falling in love again with Madeline Pryor. Mm-hmm. Wild Child is the dominant force between all of the other savage mutants, Sabretooth and Wolverine. And then I can't remember the name of the guy with the machine gun. He's like a hitman.
I can't remember his changed name. Grey Crow
Right.
is his name, but
yeah, he
changed it.
No, I think it's Grey Crow. I think that's his actual name now.
Okay,
it used to be something worse. Yeah, so he's like a army vet, and he like slaughtered a bunch of people, and like, you're our hero, right? So they're going through like their, at the time, like dreams, but then Mastermind turns them into nightmares because Arcade's an asshole. So Psylocke is like being chased by a version of her, but her eyes are like this, like, and she's like,
yeah, that was super creepy.
Yeah, like I read this book at like midnight, and I was like, I don't want to go to bed now. Like this book was kind of scary. And so they all get turned into nightmares, and the first person that's able to get out of their nightmare is Psylocke, and she like uses a psychic blast to get a hold of Grey Crow, and is like, "Hey, wake up!" And so the book ends with them, all of them waking up, and Arcade is kind of like, I really don't care about this. I want to continue to torture. I want to continue to torture Sinister. Overall, I thought the book was just kind of, it was creepy, and I liked the tone, especially for villains that I don't really know much about, and they look kind of corny. So this kind of made them, to me, feel more authentic. Like they had more villainous ways than just like, hey, I make murder rooms, you know what I mean?
Right.
So that's my perspective on it. I don't know what you think.
No, I agree, and I think I got more out of this issue than I thought that I would. I like that Mastermind is sort of in a minor role, because of the two, I actually have more of a problem with Mastermind than I do with Arcade. I mean, I dislike them both, but to me, Mastermind is such a cheap villain. Like, he's basically a deus ex machina, or however you say it. Like, you can do whatever you want at any time, undo it, redo it, and change everything, and nothing, no continuity matters, no storyline matters, no linear storytelling means anything, because they can just go, actually, none of what you just read for 3 issues mattered at all, because it was all in their heads, and it was just Mastermind. And you're like,
right.
They did that 3 separate times in the original Uncanny after Jean died. Mm-hmm. They had Mastermind trick them like 3 separate times that she was back, that she was a resurrected Phoenix and was attacking them, and all it was just Mastermind controlling. It's like, okay, like the first time you're like, whoa, no, she's back, and the second time you're like, so it's Mastermind, and then the third time you're like, oh,
fuck, it's Mastermind.
Great.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think
so all that being said, I'm glad that he was not prominent in this issue, and I thought that the development of Arcade, I say the development, maybe he's like this in other comics. I've only read the 80s stuff, 70s and 80s stuff with him, but I wasn't expecting the horror element. Like when I caught a glimpse of this, I was like, Oh,
Dude, that's fucking scary. And like, what's odd is like we saw like the next cover is literally that. So I don't know why we didn't see that coming, but that's some creepy shit.
You know, I'm interested to see where we go from here. I'll obviously be reading the next issue
for sure. So cool. So that's Hellions number 10. Next up, yay! We get Avengers 43. Did you read this?
My eyes saw it.
It wasn't that bad. It was. You have to admit, it was that bad for you. Wow, I thought it was better. I thought part 4 was better than the previous 3 parts. I will say that, because I can't tell what the hell. Like, I just don't know what the Phoenix is up to, and I think that's the most intriguing thing. Is like, okay, why is she having this tournament?
That's probably the problem. That is, I don't give a shit at all. Like, I just don't care. I'm sorry, but there was literally one good thing about this book, one cool thing, one interesting thing, and that was when, at the very beginning, when Wolverine has his claws between Black Panther's head, and he has his middle claw still pulled in, and he's like, don't make me do it or whatever. And he's like, yeah, right, I block it with my teeth. And then he opens his mouth and he's got vibranium laced into his teeth.
So Black Panther has vibranium like laced basically throughout his entire body.
Yes. And so even if Wolverine did pop that, it'd just kind of poke his chin and that'd be it.
Yeah. Well, I didn't mind. I liked that. I did like I liked the dialogue between Thor and Phoenix because, like, I really want to know, like, is this a major retcon or is the Phoenix just messing with Thor? And I got the vibe of both. Like, oh, he's his mother, but she's also fucking with him. Like, I don't think Thor is gonna end up being the Phoenix because I don't think you should do that to a character already. Like, okay, he's Thor, he's Odin's son. He's been the Herald of Galactus. Like, he's got Gaia powers. Like, you don't need to put the Phoenix in him either. Like, Thor's done. He's OP. He's fine. So I don't think it's Thor. But basically, this is the final 6. The book ends with the final 6 competitors. And the entire time through the book, you've got Cap, and I think also Black Panther really trying to fight the idea of like having to kill each other, right? Like, you even see that kind of in the Wolverine Black Panther fight. Like, Wolverine will do it. Like, he's a little hesitant, but he'll kill somebody. But you can see Black Panther being like, I just have to knock you out, right?
Yeah.
And in the final 6, it starts getting a little bit more intense. And so the book, I'm just going to jump to the end. The book ends with, She-Hulk fighting Namor, Red Widow fighting Shira or Sheila.
Yeah, Shira? I can't remember.
And then it's Cap versus
Black Panther.
Black Panther. And in their final words, when they're going to get ready to fight, they're very like, well, we knew this was coming. And Black Panther makes it sound like, I got to kill you now. Like, he went straight from like, I can knock you out to killing you. And I got to wonder if that's the Phoenix just really fucking like corrupting everybody. And it's just, Black Panther can't resist the Phoenix anymore. So I don't think we're going to lose anybody in this book. You never know. I just don't know if that's really going to happen. Where,
I mean, it certainly can't be anyone of consequence, right? Like, how are we going to kill off someone that's like literally Wolverine has his own book.
Cap does,
Black Panther has his own book. Cap has his own book.
I guess you could possibly kill.
Got a book. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
You could kill Black Panther because his book's about to end.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. This is basically. I have my theories about the Heroes Reborn event and how I think it was supposed to be an Avengers book event, and Marvel was like, nah, let's just make this like a separate continuity thing. But we'll see. Like, we'll see how this ends. I'm still betting that She-Hulk is going to be the Phoenix. I'm putting money on it. I think that's what's going to happen. Yeah. Overall, though, I know you didn't like this book. I thought it was more true to Aaron's writing and the pacing than the previous 3 parts. I thought this part felt more like a Jason Aaron book than the previous 3, in my opinion.
I got you.
So, all right, next up, a late ad. American Chavez, made in the USA. I just read this one today, but I'll let you take the lead and I will sprinkle my commentary like sprinkles.
So I have not read a single thing about America Chavez. I don't know anything about her. I don't know her origin. I don't know her powers. I don't know a single thing. But I wanted to know, and I felt like it was something I wanted to read. And this issue does a really good job of telling a fun story and catching everyone up that is like me, that knows nothing. So the story, the book basically starts out with her and what's the female Hawkeye? I can't remember her name.
Katie Bishop?
Kate Bishop, yeah.
Kate Bishop.
Yeah, so it's her and Kate Bishop basically fighting big giant moles. And yeah. And this is, it's a fun little fight. The art is really good, but it's also a way for them to demonstrate America Chavez's powers for people that aren't familiar. She gets berated by a high schooler at one point who wants to interview her while she's fighting.
Yeah.
And then at one point, while she's in the air, she just all of a sudden drops out of the air, out of nowhere. And basically her and someone that, based on what they talk about later on, her and her girlfriend are talking after the fight about, hey, like, what's going on? And she's like, my powers are just kind of cutting out sometimes. Like, I'm not sure what it is. But interspersed between these few pages, we actually have a little bit of an origin of America Chavez. So technically the very first page of the entire book is her essentially just landing on the beach out of nowhere as a younger kid than she is now. And basically what happens is a family that is, where do they live again? I can't remember. Somewhere in New York.
Somewhere in New York, in one of the suburbs.
Jefferson Heights, is that it?
I think so. You keep
basically,
talking.
Basically, they find her, unconscious on this beach and say, well, we got to take care of her. We got to find her. They ask her where her parents are, and she doesn't say anything. And they're like, did something happen to them? She just says yes. And they basically, the parents kind of contemplate and are like, we've been kind of wanting another kid, and she just kind of fell out of nowhere. And, maybe we should just take care of her until either we find out, where she's supposed to be, or, we don't, and she just stays with us. And so we kind of get a glimpse of, her origin and how she came to be, at least on the most basic sense. Now, I did do a little bit of back reading after this issue, just to kind of see where she came from really quick. Do they mention that she's from a separate universe in this issue?
Yes, the high schooler was like, she says it really quick, because I did a little bit too. And they're like, oh yeah, you're from Polar, or I forget what it is, but she says it really quick, and you're like, I feel like if you didn't do that research, you'd be like, wait, what's that? Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So that's that. Yeah, exactly. But she's from an alternate universe, basically. And both of her mothers die, and she gets sent to this reality to survive. I felt
like the reality she lived in, or where she lived, was like the Theramascara, where like in the sense of like I thought it was like all women. It looked like it was like that. Like the reality was. That's what it felt like anyway to me.
Could be. But then the third act of this book is she hears that a giant force field has appeared over her old neighborhood in New York City, and right where her family lives. And so she shows up to try to see, make sure that they're okay, and there's nothing happening to them. And of course, she runs into Spider-Man, which was a really funny little interaction between them two that I thought was a good, just kind of example of the humor of this writer. But she busts in. The apartment of her family is actually on fire, but she's able to get in there, and I think she like bursts a hole in the ceiling and drops water in or something and saves them. But right as the issue is ending, her mom gives her a note and says someone slipped this under the door right before the fire started, and it says you should keep a closer eye on your family. So someone out there is
fucking with her.
Yeah, is messing with America and is trying to send a message, very clear message.
Yeah. And what we find out is the book is being narrated the entire time by that shadowy figure who left the note. So someone's messing with her from her past. We don't know who it is. The other thing, like you kind of touched about it on this book, they don't sugarcoat, they don't spoon feed you like her powers or her origin or any of that stuff.
Yeah.
They do it in a way that makes you be like, oh, I didn't know that. Like it didn't feel forced.
It's very
all.
organic for sure.
Yeah. This book had the writer. So the writer is what? Vasquez?
Yeah.
Did a great job of like incorporate, like if you've never, like you said, if you've never read anything about America Chavez, this book, I think you can pick up and get enough to understand who the character is and who her powers are. And then it gets you intrigued enough to like do some more digging on the internets. You know what I mean? So. Yes.
And, there was this book, to me, this book was threefold. As a newer comic book reader, there's still a lot of characters that I'm not familiar with. And so a number one miniseries is a really easy way, I think, to kind of jump into a book of a character you don't know yet. But also, and I think I said this whenever we were doing our YouTube solicitations video, we're very, how should I say it, like anti-Comicsgate kind of people. And so...
Yeah, fuck Comicsgate people.
Yeah, I'm all about representation in books. And so if you're telling me there's a Latin character by, Hispanic writers as well, then I'm definitely on board. I want to know more about this character anyway, and I like to vote with my dollars and say that this is stuff that we want to read. Yes. I don't just need to read stories about Captain America saving white Americans.
And you know what? We'll get to that because like there's a scene in Infinite Frontier that literally it was just like white heroes, and I was like, what the like it literally was like red, white, and blue heroes, and I'm like, that is not. Like, and I know it wasn't like a jump to the 1950s. It was like a present day like shot, and I'm like, that's kind of weird. But we'll get to that later.
Yeah, hey,
Manny,
what's up, Manny?
What's up, Manny? Manny says definitely looking forward to reading this. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I think you'll definitely enjoy it.
Yeah, Manny, the live streams have been good. Been checking those out. Keep it up
for sure. And we've got
like
you.
Your take on it.
We've got you in our recommended channels as well too. All right. Next up. All right, we're getting into our King of Black tie-ins. I think both of us were kind of like meh on this book. I mean, it was okay.
Yeah, it was okay.
It was a decent tie-in, and I think in like you said in the Marvel solicitations, you basically said you thought it was going to happen prior to him being nullified, and it actually is right after he got nullified.
Yep. I was very happy about that.
And yeah, I would have been disappointed if it had been like before. But essentially, we find out that Cap's got really big feelings. Cap, in this book, Cap's got some big feelings, and he basically he's I wouldn't say a softie, but he's just when a god from the void possesses your body and brain, you're not gonna like just snap out and be like, hey, let's go save the world, right? Like you're gonna have some PTSD, and it definitely shows in this book for Cap. Like
well, and I think we've seen it in other books too, but like after you've been possessed by Null a little bit, like it's not just a psyche kind of thing. Like I think there's literally some of Null left still in there,
just messing with you.
Yeah, just kind of messing with you.
So basically, this is him teaming up with Bucky and the Falcon, and they're kind of, on the other, some part of New York, and they're trying to save people, but throughout the fight, Cap can't figure out what's real and what's not. Like, Null is fucking with his brain. And so he'll see a scenario and he thinks it's real, and then he snaps out of it, and they're just like, Winter Soldier and Falcon are looking at him like, "You okay, bro? Like, we need to go save these people now." And he's like, yeah. And so it happens to him like 3 or 4 times where he thinks he's in the middle of a situation, but he's really just standing there with like drool coming out of his mouth because he can't distinguish the two. And Null has got, like you said, Null still has like a little bit of himself wrapped around in his brain enough to fuck with him. Yeah. And so I mean that it was cool. I will say that, but I'll say it's not the best King in Black tie-in. And I think the reason why I say that is just I'm not an invested Captain America reader. Yeah. So I just don't know the character. I mean, I know the character. I just don't know the today's version of Captain America in the current book, like in his current ongoing. I just don't know the dynamic of the character. I don't know how the character's written. I feel like in King in Black, I know that Captain America, but that's the gung-ho Captain America, right? Like, he doesn't have big feelings. He doesn't have consequence.
Yeah. I feel like, if you're on the fence on this book, it's either for, big time King of Black completionists or Captain America lovers. If you're a Captain America lover, I think you're gonna like to see Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes and just get a little bit, a nice little Cap story. But if you're looking for something of consequence that'll drive the plot in some way, big or small, in King of Black, you're not going to get anything like that at all here. There's nothing of relevance here that helps the story of King in Black whatsoever.
Yeah. I'll also say this. I feel, and this might offend some people, but I really think that Cap in the comics needs to have an updated costume. I'm kind of over this costume. Like the bell-bottom boots. Like, let's have like a combination between like cinematic and this, maybe. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. That's just me. That's just my take.
I'd be totally down for like a 90s Nomad revival or something like that.
Sure, whatever. Like, I just like when you read the book, Captain America still looks very, when he originally showed up, right? And you've got Bucky and Falcon who look modern as hell in this book. That's my one complaint, is they look like they're about to get a show on Disney Plus. But Cap just looks like he's stuck in the 1950s, and you're like,
40s.
All right, 40s, whatever. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like, he's just, he doesn't look. He kind of sticks out like a a sore thumb.
A Thor thumb.
A Thor thumb. And I think he could use. I think he could use an upgrade in the comic books. I'm not saying I don't like the classic costume, but when everybody else looks modern, I think Cap should look just a little bit. So,
yeah, I can see that.
So, next up in our King in Black is Gwenom versus Carnage. We'll get through this really quick. So,
yeah, I forgot to read this one. That's my bad.
That's okay. So, like I've said before, the story for me in this book is a little disconnected because I don't really know the story of Ghost Spider, Gwen. I haven't read her series, so I don't know. Like, it's very disconnected for me, and that's not a bad thing. But it's just I can't relate to this story on that note. The artwork in this book is fantastic, very chaotic and very, very colorful and dark, and it's just that's the fun part about it. But like the dynamic between Gwen and Stacy from Earth 65, like I don't know if that's really a thing. Clearly it is, but I just don't know that dynamic. I haven't read those books. Yeah. But basically what we get in this book is a battle of the bands. So like we said in the previous issue, Mary Jane literally converted a guitar into an actual axe. And so in this book, she's trying to ditch Gwen. Gwen left the band, so now she's going to make her own while she's the symbiote. And so she like goes to Madison Square Garden where people were actually setting up for a concert, and she nullifies people that were actually in a band, and they have like a battle of the bands moment where Gwen's on the drums and Mary Jane is on the guitar, and they're like battling it out. And eventually Gwen is able to create so much noise that the symbiote or null comes off of, like, breaks away from MJ, and she's able to save her. The book, however, ends with a massive cliffhanger, and I want to know, and I haven't seen it in solicitations, are we getting a Gwen book again? Because the way this book ends, it makes it sound like we're going to get another miniseries, if not an actual series between, like, with Gwen. Yeah, it's definitely focused, and it's like forced. The way it, or forced, you're right. It just, the artwork is great. The story, I'm like, was there supposed to be an ongoing happening when this book got released, and it just got like, canceled? Didn't
she have an ongoing that was going on right before the pandemic that never picked up?
Maybe that's it.
I think it literally got like 3 issues in, and then we never saw it again. I think it was supposed to be one of those titles that was a digital only release. Is it that, or is it Amazing Mary Jane?
I think it's Amazing Mary Jane, because Mary Jane, because that's the other thing. Like, she's in Hollywood, and she pops up in Spider-Man, and she's like, "Oh, I'm back from acting," and I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, what's going on?"
Yeah.
Either way, I kind of want to know what happens. So essentially, what happens at the end of the book is she gets Null off of MJ, but she kind of sets her aside, like, "Hey, take care of her while I leave," and she goes to fight Null. And Mary Jane opens her eyes, and one of her eyes has the Null swirl in it. So she's still technically infected.
Gotcha.
Let's see. So got a sweet Black Cat cover out of it, though. So, yep.
You seen that Black Cat cover?
I have not.
Here, let me drop it into the
Chat?
Discord real quick so you can see it.
Or you can put it in chat so everybody else can see it.
Okay. Well, let's do that.
One thing I will notice, okay, so we know that Gwen's suit is made of spiders, and I just noticed this detail while looking at it on the computer screen. There are spiders in the red in Gwen's suit. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's a pretty cool.
Andy, is that the one that you got?
Is that the one you got?
Butt ass, if it is.
Yeah. Who did that cover?
David Nakayama.
Cool. Yeah, I didn't even see that one at the store.
There was also I didn't see any of these. There's also a ASM 361 homage. The Carnage. It's like, ASM 361.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Don't you have an ASM 361?
Yes, I do.
Of course you do.
I kind of like this one. The Anti-Venom.
Oh, yeah, that one's cool, too.
And then, well, I did see this one. I just didn't get it. I think it was an exclusive, but it's the Peach Momoko. Shout out Peach Momoko.
Gotcha.
Either way.
Anyway, we're getting off topic here.
We're just adding minutes to this book. It was okay. Like, I liked the artwork. I can't get into the story because I don't know what the hell's going on. And it's kind of reminiscent to... No, it's not reminiscent. It's just, I'd like to know more. If anything, what this book accomplished is I personally wouldn't mind seeing the Gwenom book come back, and I would read it. I would totally buy it.
Nice.
All right, we got Wiccan and Hulkling, King in Black tie-in that really didn't... I mean, yes and no on the King in Black tie-in. I don't feel like it had... I don't know. You talk. I'll just sprinkle.
Okay, so I will come out right up front and just say that I'm a complete shill for these characters. I love them, and I like all things space. We've talked about that many times, so I am a little bit biased.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I will say right off the bat again, if you are a fan of these characters, this is a book for you. If you are if you are looking for any sort of King in Black, plot driver, anything of consequence whatsoever, this is not the book for you. This is not it.
No.
This could almost be an Empire aftermath post
King in Black.
script. Do what?
Post King in Black too.
Well, it's not post King in Black.
But it could, like, you could, like, the King in Black event could have ended, and then this book could have came out, and it would have been like, oh yeah, that totally makes sense.
Sure. But what I'm saying is that to me, it would make more sense than instead of King Black up here, it's saying Empire.
Yeah, I agree.
Because this is a lot more involved with that. Anyway, we basically, I don't think we need to spend too much time on this book, but basically this is just after the wedding of Wicked and Hulkling. A Shi'ar representative shows up and says, hey, I would basically like to offer you a week on, our resort as a gift. Basically, like, this can be your honeymoon. And what is her name? L'Oreal?
Yeah, L'Oreal.
L'Oreal, Captain Marvel's sister, who is now the Supreme Accuser.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, but you can't go alone. So now Hulkling, Wiccan, and L'Oreal are going to this Shi'ar planet for their honeymoon. So they show up, they're having a great time, and while they're sunning on the beach, Null Dragons show up and start fucking up shit. And so basically we get a little bit of traditional King in Black fighting symbiotes, and then we get a little bit more insight into Wiccan and Hulkling's relationship. Again, I'm not sure that we get anything really out of consequence here. At least nothing that's like standing out in my mind. I literally just read this issue yesterday. I read it and was like, man, people are going to kind of shit on this for like the wrong reasons, but not because it just wasn't a super strong story, but just because this issue is very gay, and
well, they're gay.
That. Well, exactly. That's my point.
They're gay. like
no. I know, but what I'm saying is that you've got little snot-nosed comic dudes that are going to think, oh, I don't like boys kissing.
This makes me feel uncomfortable.
And so it sucks. It absolutely sucks. But whenever you have characters like this and you don't write a bomb-ass story, sometimes it feels like people are going to use the wrong thing against the book.
Yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But basically, you don't get a ton here, but you get some good fighting, you get some good romance, and you get some. I wonder if they're going to show up in issue 5, because they're very much, once this is done, they're like, okay, we helped this planet, but Earth is still not in good shape, so we need to go.
I mean, we know that Wiccan obviously can do something to them, and then Hulkling's sword is like a magic sword, so yeah, I think it makes sense for them to show up in the book. I will say, on a completely design note, Wiccan's costume is fucking legit. Yes,
that's
so cool.
It looks really good. Let me see if I can find that particular panel.
Also, I find it funny that when they show up to the planet and they're like, "Let's go on the beach," and they're like, they tell L'Oreal to basically relax, and she's in her bikini for a second, and then the planet is attacked by symbiotes and she's back into full garb. I was like, dude, that sucks. You're ready to go have a day on the beach, and they're like, nope. So we get her in her bathing suit for a panel. And then she goes back into warrior mode. I thought it was hilarious. Can't find it. Well, since we featured the Peach Momoko cover for the last book, we have to feature the Peach Momoko cover for this book. Also, kick-ass cover.
Did you pick it up?
I did not, because I don't think Ron had it, because he didn't have the other cover that I was looking for too for Thunderbolts, but we'll show that one later.
I should have picked one up for you while I was at Titan, and I didn't do it.
You went to Titan?
After Micro Center.
I thought you were going to Duncanville.
I went there too.
Dude, you're a buttface.
Sorry.
Thunderbolts, number 3. I'll find it somewhere. This was fun, but I'm starting to see a trend that it just feels like a lot of these King in Black tie-ins, they start off outside of the one-shots. They're like, yeah, and then you're like, oh, this might have some consequence, and then this book ends, and you're like, maybe not. right? So in the previous issue, the Thunderbolts found the lower half of. Are you talking about Titan Comics on 407 Texas? Yes, we are, Manny.
Yes.
Let me guess, you're in DFW. So in the last issue, they found. Every time I see that S, I want to say Shazam. It's not Shazam.
No.
It's
Sentry.
They found the bottom half of Sentry, and so they've been tasked to find the upper half. Well, what we find out is the reason why they've been tasked to do this is because they're going to create a bomb out of his body. He still has an immense amount of force and energy in his body. So nice. That's awesome, Manny. They're basic.
About 50 minutes west of there.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
I tried to sneak out of the Micro Center and tried to wait an hour before to get a graphics card, but
it didn't happen.
The trucks didn't show up.
So essentially, in this book, what we get is the Thunderbolts find the upper half of Sentry, and Kingpin's like, "All right, now I need you to put him back together, and then you're gonna blow up his body, and we're gonna make it look like we defeated Null." When in actuality, he's sending all the Thunderbolts onto a suicide mission because he doesn't think it's going to work, but at least he'll kill these guys off and be like, hey, look what I did. and that's what we get in this book. And essentially, that doesn't happen. It's forced perspective to happen for Kingpin. Mm-hmm. And then he finds out that he got duped, and he's stuck with these characters as his Thunderbolt team. So I think I believe we'll get more Thunderbolts, whether it's going to be in the Spider-Man comic or if we're going to get another Thunderbolts title. That being said, the artwork was cool. The thing that I liked about this book was Taskmaster. We still don't know what Taskmaster actually looks like because in this book, he was wearing a fake face.
Yeah.
And he ended up pulling it off and putting his mask back on. So he's still very secretive. So that was kind of cool. But overall, like Nate's been saying with some of these other tie-ins, this book really doesn't have, at the end of it, really much consequence that I don't think will drive the plot in the next King in Black books. Now, that being said, who knows? Maybe someone's like, hey, is that Sentry's tied up, fused together back body? Who knows? But overall, this book kind of ended. I felt like the book ended kind of weak. I don't know about you.
No, I thought it ended just fine. I mean, again, I wasn't expecting anything of consequence from this book, and I think we got the same things that I enjoyed out of the first two issues. Really good art and good humor. So I was satisfied with the book. I mean,
I guess I just held it to the standard of Black Cat because Black Cat's tie-in actually had consequence in the sense that she saved Doctor Strange, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely not on the same level as Black Cat as far as impact. But I would say for a book that, again, I don't really know any of these characters. I know of Star and I know of Taskmaster, but I've never read any comics with either of them in there. And yet I still enjoyed the whole run, so I thought it was worth it.
It was. I wouldn't say it wasn't worth it. I guess I was expecting more. And
if you're a Rosenberg fan, if you are familiar with his writing and his style of humor, then and you like that, then this is definitely a book to pick up. I only read a couple of other comics by him, but you can definitely tell that it's a book by him just by his style of humor.
Yeah. So here's the variant cover that I was thinking about picking up, but I didn't because Ron didn't have it. What I like out of everything on this cover, the thing that I like the most is Sentry in this corner up here. He's cut in half and he's like he's like a zombie. So I almost picked this cover up from Andy, but I decided against it. But I like the cover.
Yeah, it's a cool cover.
So, all right, let's get back here. All right, so next up. All right, so we got High Republic number 3. I'll tell you, I'll sprinkle in this one too. I'm probably going to sprinkle in this one and not so much in the next one. I'll just say this right now. Yeah, right. So that cover catches Manny's eye for sure. Like it, I like that cover a lot. I think it's just great. The thing I'll say about this issue, I think High Republic is still running very strong. That being said, I told Mark this morning when I went to work that I want Sith. That's my only criticism, and I don't think we're going to get it. We're not going to get it. I know that, but I'm just not. I'm not really feeling dark side vegetation. So, that being said, I'll let you explain it because I know I'm misinterpreting it. Take it away, Nate.
You are misinterpreting it.
I know.
So basically, this book picks up exactly where we left off in the previous one. I can never remember their names because they're just too silly. But the two brothers or twins, basically one of them starts just straight up attacking Skier and just starts saying all kinds of great, crazy things about the darkness, and he starts foaming at the mouth. It's pretty intense. And so they're able to subdue him, and see again, I can't even remember our main character's name.
It starts with a K, right?
Yeah, no, it does.
Kiev.
Yep. Sure. Anyway, she goes outside and starts talking to some of the locals who are like bringing her bread and like offering her food and like trying to be really polite, when some random guy who basically tries to force that he's in charge is just like, well, what are you guys doing? Y'all don't need to be here. We don't like the Jedi. Y'all can just go away. None of this is your business. And which is kind of suspicious, but she eventually decides that she's going to go and look for
the other brother.
And while she does, one of the little boys decides that he's going with her because his friend is also missing and he wants to go on an adventure with a Jedi. And so they go through the tall brush and eventually find a large sinkhole. And then the little boy just straight up jumps inside of it, just like, okay, see you later.
Deuces.
The cover doesn't really do this justice because that looks like it's barely wider than she is, but like in actuality, it's probably like 20 or 40 feet in diameter. It's huge. Of course, she catches him and they land and start going, taking off and exploring underneath. And eventually, while they're down there, they find the other brother and this little boy's friend, and they've been taken over by this weird vegetation, this weird plant. While they're going down there, it seems that our main character is inhibited by headaches or just like some type of like negative feeling. And she's like, it's, the dark side is down here. It's really strong. Like she's being affected by it. I will say not a lot of people, but I have heard some people get a little frustrated with this part because as far as I know, and at least what people are saying, is we haven't seen too much of this like dark force sensitivity kind of thing. They're like, yeah, you're just adding stuff that shouldn't be there. And it's like, well, yeah, these are the people that do that though. Like these are the people that are in charge of these stories now, and
they can.
And also, like, who knows? Like, we could, at the end of High Republic or at some point, we could get like some type of explanation of how the Force has changed. Or, I thought it was dumb. I was just like, if you're a Star Wars person, just kind of roll with it. Like, just things are going to change and things are going to be a little different. And anyway, I was kind of frustrated by that.
No, I can totally see. I see what they're saying, but you're right. Like, the hands have changed, right? And I don't think that being whatever you want to call it, a retcon or a change, it's a welcome change. Like,
well, nitpicky. It's not like we're talking about counting midichlorians or something. Like, right. It's a pretty small change.
Yeah, for sure.
But basically, we've got some type of dark side infection down here. We get a weird, like, reptilian plant. They almost look like Kotati forces.
Yeah, definitely.
Red Empire. It looks. Actually, just show that off. Looks a lot like a Kotati warrior or something.
I'll say the second page or the last page when they show up again, I did get some Muppet vibes though. Like I just felt like they were fighting. Like I was like, these guys don't seem that scary. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just me.
Well, basically, what happens is, there's something down here that's infecting people with the dark side of the Force. We don't know exactly what it is. We don't know if there's some kind of ancient relic down here, or if there's an individual person that is using the Force to infect these beings. But something is happening down here. So much so that Skier himself actually, he gets coughed on by one of the brothers who is sick. And it's like, this black blood-looking stuff.
Yeah, that was crazy.
And he becomes infected as well. And he shows up down in the, the tunnels that they're searching, and he's got a plant arm grown back holding his lightsaber where his chopped off arm is. Which I thought was a badass panel until you pointed out that those look like Muppets. And now
I'm sorry. They just do. Like, he looks badass. Like, he looks all possessed and plantified. But I thought that was my main criticism of the book, is like this dark side vegetation to me is just kind of like meh. But
no, and I appreciate that. I appreciate that perspective, because I'm definitely like fanboying on this stuff so far, and like I need a little bit of like come back, and not everything's just perfect about these issues. Well, there are some flaws.
Well, I thought the twin brother coughing on Skier I thought was cool too, though. Like he was just like, here, I'm going to use my voice changer. Here we go. He was like, he goes, that's what it sounded like. He was just like, rah!
That is exactly what the comic sounded like. Yes.
It did. Like if comics sounded like something, and I'm going to do that again later, but with a different sound, because I'm playing with my voice mod that I just got. But yeah, like that part was like, oh, that's gross. Like he was trying to keep him to calm down, and he was like, he just coughed on him with like these spore blood gross things.
The one thing I didn't cover on, just because there was a few pages in between the main story, but one thing that really intrigued me the most about this issue is we continue to see Skier kind of breaking a little bit. He's, his usual Jedi demeanor is gone. Like he's kind of getting angry. Obviously the last issue he like hacked that person to pieces. Like he's kind of breaking a little bit, and now he's totally taken over by the dark side.
That girl, or not the girl, but the head Jedi or the master, or whatever her name is,
Abar.
She's even like, you're fucked. Like,
yeah,
you're basically done.
No, she doesn't say that. She just says that we need to have a talk about this.
She raises the eyebrow, like you're going to, like,
you're
gonna do some time.
I don't think that's the implication. Anyway, I think that this clearly shows his weakened state, though, that he was, able to be taken over so quickly. Now, that could be wrong. Maybe that's how strong this thing is, and it would have done that to anybody. But I think maybe it's showing that he's susceptible to falling to the dark side. And, the next issue is basically showing him, kind of holding them captive. So,
also, though, we didn't talk about the little boy's friend, who is straight up dead in the pit.
Yeah, I forgot about that. Like, this issue is kind of dark.
Yeah, so like when they get into the pit, they find their friends, and they find the other Jedi, and he's like in a very weakened and almost dead state. And then the boy's like, "Oh, here's my friend," and he's like, he's literally.
She says he's with the Force now.
Yeah, his tongue's sticking out, and he's like, "Wait, so he's dead?" And we're like, "Yeah, he's dead." And he's just laying there, fucking just dead. I'm like, damn, that sucks, bro. Like, where's my best friend? Dead.
Dead, man. Sorry about that.
Sorry, bro.
Anyway, I really enjoyed the issue. This is me.
Yeah, no. I enjoyed it. It just wasn't. I think I don't want to say the honeymoon phase is over, but there was a little bit of a like, wait, what? But not enough for me to be like, I'm done. Like there was just a little blip. That's all. All right. So continuing the Star Wars train, we've got Star Wars High Republic Adventures from IDW. I did not read this, but I have it.
You didn't read it?
I didn't read it. I haven't read the first one. I've only I have it. I haven't read it.
Well, okay.
What?
Okay,
You
buddy.
didn't read another book that we got.
Okay,
so.
yeah, a shitty book. No one cares about. All right, so in this issue, we are picking up on our battle on Tiermant 4 on Barlank City. Obviously.
Right. Totally.
The Padawans are all basically surrounded by the Nile. Looks like there's no... it's not going to look good for them until James's favorite character that he loves to pop up in everything Star Wars shows up.
Listen, I don't
Number
have a
one,
problem. Listen, hold on. Stop it. I don't have a problem with the character. I just think, like we were saying, this is new stuff, right? And I think it's just you're playing to the base. Oh, look, here's Yoda. We know Yoda's meh. Well, this is new stuff.
Well, yes, but you also gotta remember that this book is geared towards a younger audience.
No, only adults read comics. Only adults.
Totally. And it's nice to have a sense of familiarity. Anyway, I absolutely love this guy that is with Yoda. I can't remember his name, but he calls himself Buckets of Blood.
What the fuck?
His name is Buckets of Blood, and as they're running into battle, he says, "Buckets of Blood has arrived on the scene." And we find out later in the issue that they're like, he talks multiple times in the issue about how he's a healer and he doesn't like fighting. And they're like, if you're a healer and you don't like fighting, why do you call yourself Buckets of Blood? And he's like, because I heal you with buckets of blood.
Oh my God.
Isn't that obvious? And they're like, yeah, that doesn't mean what you think it means.
Oh, Jesus.
Anyway, the humor in this is really nice. I like it. But basically we have the leader of this planet, trying to get away with a little boy who's friends with that force sensitive girl that we met in the first issue.
Yeah.
That helped them stop the piece that was gonna come down and smash them. Basically, this issue is a lot of fighting. Like, here's a spread which I thought was really, really good. It's just like chaotic, and for a kid's book, I don't know. Can you see that? Anyway,
No, yeah.
for a kid's book, I was like, man, there's a lot of like swords, lightsabers, and blaster bolts. A lot of action. Basically, the girl is like, no, wait, what about my friend? She sees him getting taken onto the Nile ship, and so Yoda's like, all right, I'll go save him. And he finds his way onto the ship and is able to get the boy without anyone else noticing, and says to the boy, like, if you want to come on back with us, you can. And he's like, no, my friend lied to me. She uses the Force, and the people on this planet are not supposed to use the Force. And so he's all bummed out. And so he doesn't go with them, and Yoda has to leave him behind, and the Nile ship takes off. And they are separated. And so we basically see the resolution of the fight for this planet here. I'm interested to see how we're going to go as far as a narrative is for this story. It almost seems like we might follow both the boy and the girl. So the girl stays on the planet, is with the Padawans, and they basically say, hey, we got to take her in. She saved our life. She used the Force to help save us. We need to teach her and train her and be her family now. And she's also an orphan, and has never lived on one planet for very long. And so they're like, she doesn't have anybody. So she's going to go with them. And then the boy is on the ship with the Nile and with the leader of the planet. And the Republic has essentially formed a blockade above this planet. And there's a big, giant medical frigate that's there to help the planet, provide, aid and stuff. And then obviously there's a bunch of starfighters that come out of it to protect it. And they're trying to force the brigade. And the Nile literally say, we got to get out of here. This is how we're going to do it. They open up their weapons, and it looks like they're going to fire onto the starfighters, and they actually fire on the health frigate and take it down so that they're able to escape. Which, again, in and of itself is not a particularly violent thing. It's just one panel of a ship kind of going kaboom. But like when you think about it, like that's a massive war crime. Like you're blowing up a ship full of doctors and nurses, just to escape, which I really enjoyed. The continuity there between the novel that I'm reading, again, I'm trying to consume like everything High Republic, and so I wasn't expecting for them to be quite so bloodthirsty and I don't know, evil, I guess you could say, as they are in the novel, but they definitely are, and so I like the consistency there.
Buckets full of blood, bro.
Buckets of blood, man.
Buckets of blood.
So funny.
Jesus.
And the final panel of this issue shows that the Padawans are heading to the Starlight Citadel. So it seems like we might get a little bit more information about the actual inside of the Citadel, which we haven't seen so far, except for maybe just a couple of panels.
Yeah, in the first issue, I think, of the other book. And
I mentioned this in our YouTube video for the weekly polls. But I really like that IDW is printing the variant covers in the back. So if you don't want to buy another separate copy, this is a 1 in 10 too. So it's not like it's just another variant.
It's
pretty.
That's badass. Yeah. All right. Next up, we weren't going to cover this book, but we ended up covering it. Infinite Frontier #0, the reset of the DC universe, multiverse, omniverse, whatever the hell you want to call it.
They haven't done that before, have they?
No. Not like this is the 5th time they've done this. So, if you're new to the show, we are not avid DC readers. We're more Marvel.
That's an understatement.
Yeah, we're more Marvel oriented. But we try to incorporate DC as much as we can in our shows where it's prevalent, where we're interested in, right? Like, we're not just going to pick up a Superman book because we're like, we got to read more DC. No, we're going to read a Superman book because we're interested in it or whatever.
Or because we like the writer.
That too, and like, we've been more prevalent to reading Dark Label or Black Label books. And now that that's kind of going away, we're just trying to figure out.
See you later, Manny.
Oh, what's up, Manny? Bye. I didn't even notice because I'm not looking at chat. Sorry, Manny. We try to incorporate DC where we can, where we feel like our interests lie.
I also want to clarify too that at least you had a little bit more comic exposure before the past year and a half, but like I didn't, and there's only so much you can read, and I, as a history major, am very obsessed with knowing everything. And as a matter of fact, when I started reading comics, I was convinced that I was going to start at Fantastic Four #1 and just read in publication order until I got caught up, because I just didn't understand the scope.
Yeah.
So it's not that I like have a hatred for DC or anything like that. It's just like
there's a lot.
There's a lot, and like when I feel more comfortable, I think, with where I'm at with Marvel, I feel like I could dive in a little bit more DC. But this is my attempt to be, because you didn't pick this up until I did.
Exactly.
So this is my attempt to try to jump in at a more of a new starter point and just kind of see what's going on with the DC continuity as a whole.
So, what we get in this book, so this is essentially a prologue and epilogue. Or it's an epilogue to Death Metal, and it's a prologue to the new Infinite Frontier event, right? Or not even event, what DC Comics are now. And so, in order to understand this book, you have to know that what happened in Death Metal. In Death Metal, Wonder Woman essentially sacrificed herself and was chosen to be the guardian of the new frontier, the Infinite Frontier multiverses, if you will. And so this book continues that journey for her. and she meets other beings that are in this same position, and they're giving her a spot on this council of beings that oversee the multiverse, and they're essentially trying to tell her, like, you should join, everything's okay, there's nothing to worry about. And she's like, no, I was told to look for something that was off, and that's why I probably should be this, in charge of the multiverse, right? And they're like, okay, well, we'll have Spectre go with you through the new timelines and new multiverses, and you can see for yourself that everything's okay. And so there's multiple stories within this book that are setting up other books that are going to currently come out in the DC universe, right? I think the coolest one for me that I liked was the Batman, clearly the Joker story. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, that one's probably written by Tynion.
It is, yeah.
And that one was by far the coolest story in this book. Essentially, Joker, I guess after the Joker War, kind of disappeared. And now he's attacking again, and he basically kills everybody in Arkham Asylum, and it's pretty sick and twisted. Like, everyone's like got a grin, but their like jaws are dislocated and their tongues are hanging out, and it's really fucked up. That was a cool story.
Kills Bane.
Yeah, he literally kills Bane. Like, Bane's like hooked up like this, and they pull his mask off, and he's like, like he's all fucked up. That was cool, and so she basically jumps multiple stories of where we're headed. So, like, in Justice League, for instance, the Black Adam is now Shazam. So it's Shazadam.
Is that for real, or is someone trying to be funny?
I think we're gonna have to read. I think it's real. So there's that. There's a next Batman story, but if you read it and you didn't read the next Batman comics in Future State, it literally would have flown right over your head.
Yeah.
And then the Magistrate is kind of set up in this book too. Like, he's, setting up his whole, like, no masks in Gotham. So again, if you haven't read those, that kind of flies over your head, and they're assuming that you did. There is a coming out story for Green Lantern, because I know that was already established in the previous continuity. That Green Lantern, the old school Green Lantern, is gay. Well, now he came out to his children in this book, and they're like, "Dad, don't be silly." Awesome, and I was just like, "This is weird. Like, this was already established that he was gay."
It felt very forced.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. Like, I'm all for it, but like, that's already been established. So now he's just making sure he can come out to his kids. And you would think that they would have heard that if he came out to, like, the Justice League. Whatever. So that was kind of weird. Like, it just felt, like you said, it just felt forced. Like, we already know this. Like, cool. And then there's this whole Themyscira storyline where Diana's mom basically gives up power to, I forget her name, Nebula?
No,
I forget her name. It's essentially, in Future State, it looked like we were going to get two Wonder Womans, one from Brazil and then an African American Wonder Woman. In this book, there's some skepticism towards the one that's from Brazil, and the African American Wonder Woman is now in charge of the entire island, while Diana's mother goes and looks for this other Wonder Woman. So that's established in this book.
Yes.
Throughout this book, Spectrum is showing Wonder Woman that it's okay to become one of them, to be this godlike person. And she looks badass. Like, her costume looks so fucking cool. And they're just trying to convince her. Well, at the end of the book, she agrees to go back, and it looks like she's going to join. And then she says no. And she's like, I want to be part of the Infinite Frontier too. And she dismisses the responsibility that was put upon her from, like, these very strange and unknown voices from Death Metal. And so she's just like, never mind, I'm gonna go fight, yay! And she leaves, and she comes back to continuity. That pisses me off. And I know that you didn't read Death Metal, but Death Metal, like, what they did in this book essentially goes, Death Metal doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. And like, again, I'm not a heavy DC reader, but I was invested in that event, and we know that before Death Metal started, AT&T and Warner Brothers slashed the shit out of DC Comics staff and writers. Got rid of a shit ton of people, got rid of a shit ton of titles, and all they wanted, they literally said, we're bringing it back to basic stories, just basic stories. And when I originally heard that, I was like, oh, cool, maybe I'll get into it. And now that I've read Death Metal, I'm like, this is bullshit. Like, this doesn't feel right. Like, you literally had this gigantic event that had huge consequence, then you write this and go, that doesn't matter. Like, it literally was like one page, everything that happened in Death Metal doesn't matter.
But it seems like everything in Death Metal matters, right? Like, Death Metal is what reset the continuity and allowed the multiverse to come back.
Not Death Metal. The person that reset continuity and allowed everything to come back. In order for it to come back, Diana had to make the sacrifice to leave the multiverse, to become that being. And so in this book, she's like, nah, never mind, I'm coming back. Well, she's the reason why it happened.
Right. So the thing that they're saying doesn't count, doesn't matter, is her, not the whole event. The biggest part of the event, right, is the resetting, and they're basically bringing back all continuities, saying all continuities matter, all continuities are here.
But the only reason why that works is because she sacrificed her life to do it. She sacrificed. Death Metal was essentially a Wonder Woman story through and through. It's all about Wonder Woman. And at the end of Death Metal, she was given a choice. She was given a choice. Either she could let everything die and end, or she could sacrifice basically her life for everyone, all of her friends, all of these multiverses, like you're saying, to exist. But in order for that to happen, she had to become part of that group. She had to become the protector. And she bails at this book. She's just like, fuck it, I want to go have fun. And to me, I'm not saying what I'm saying is I think that's poor writing. I think that's and I think it's, and I'm not even a DC hardcore. I would love to hear if there's DC people watching this right now and they're like, no, actually, I think this is great. Awesome. I'm off. I'm totally off. But if I'm a DC reader and I just read Death Metal, I'd be pissed because it's basically saying what you just invested in, all the money you put into that book, doesn't mean shit. I don't know. That's just me.
I need to hear from some DC people for sure.
For sure. Yeah, and you know what? Maybe we should ask Ron. Maybe Ron or Jacob probably have a better perspective on it. But for me, like, I actually was digging this book, and then at the end when she's like, "Well, bye," and she just goes back to being Wonder Woman, to me that's AT&T and Warner Brothers going, we need Wonder Woman. We need Wonder Woman comics. Make her come back. Fuck whatever you wrote. We just need basic comic book stories about these characters so we can sell more comics, so we can have a wider base of readers, which I understand that, but also do better. Just do it better. Like I have never been really this frustrated with a comic book before, and it's hilarious that I'm pissed off about a DC comic book. Like,
yes, that is pretty funny.
We don't read DC, but I read Death Metal, and it's just like, fuck Death Metal. This is what it is now. And I don't think that this was the direction they were going. And they did a complete 180 because they felt like the stories they were telling weren't good. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the reason why people don't pick up. And again, now we're kind of getting into some weird territory here. I don't think Marvel people I don't think they pick up DC books, not because there aren't good stories. It's because it's just not their thing. And so they can't, I feel like DC is trying to steal or trying to get more people to read DC books, and they weren't getting it with, the stories they were telling prior to AT&T and Warner Brothers buyout. So now they're like, all right, let's just do basic stories. And I think in doing that, they're going to turn off a lot of DC readers too.
Yeah.
That's me personally.
I gotcha.
And that, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that one of the reasons why I picked this book up is because I wanted to see if there were any stories that seemed interesting to me that I might want to read or possibly look into, and I would say that this issue succeeded at that. Like, I'm very interested to see where Tanian is going to take Batman from now. I think this would be a good place to jump on, so I'm thinking about actually picking up 106 just to kind of see what's going on. I've been very, very close to adding Superman to my pool because Philip Kennedy Johnson is writing it now. And I really liked the story that he had in here, so I think I am going to probably maybe not add it to my pool, but at least pick up the first few issues. I was intrigued by the Flash story and what's his name? Barry Allen saying that he was going to basically be traveling the multiverse. If that book covers that and him going through different multiverses and exploring this Earth Omega, I'm very interested in that. But finally, and this could be nothing, and it could be a red herring, and I'll be very sad and cry. But the big giant splash page with all of the characters happens to have my favorite DC character of all time here. Our Green Lantern from Far Sector is included in there as well. Yeah. If there are more books about her, I will be reading those.
I can confirm to you that she will be in more Green Lantern books. I can tell you that for sure.
How do you know? Or you just
I read somewhere that she's joining the Corps essentially. Like, she's going to be more prominent. Yeah, no,
great character.
I think this book. Go for it.
I was just going to say, I say that she is a great character being written by N.K. Jemisin. But honestly, one of the great things about her is that she's a very tough and I don't know, if she's not written in the same way that N.K. Jemisin is writing her, then I'll be very sad. But I think
Maddie, come on now, don't do that. Don't do that. Maddie goes, yeah, but Wonder Woman 84 was the bomb, yo. Yeah, it bombed like hell. All right. Anyway,
we talked about this book forever, but
hold on. I got one more thing to say. I think you're right in the sense that for me, outside of the whole just dropping the ball on Wonder Woman, it did achieve, like, it did pique my curiosity. Like, that Batman, hopefully the Joker story was pretty awesome. Like, that was cool. And I am kind of intrigued with the Shazam character. And I think that's going to be in Michael and Bendis's Justice League run, which there is a little bit of hype for that. So, I might do that.
For a Bendis run?
Yeah, he's doing Justice League. But again, I just think it's a major fail for anybody that was involved with the death metal run. Like, I don't know. I feel like this comic was already written and then they just edited the back end. And here's the best part. We didn't even get to this, and then we'll move on to our next book. The book ends with her making that decision and leaving and coming back to Earth, right? And all the beings are like, she doesn't know what she's missing. We'll get her back. We'll convince her to come back. We're now on this Earth Omega, and this is basically a prison for this ultimate doom that she was so worried about. And everything's fine because this is a place for, and they it goes ... for gods to, and then there's another voice that says die. And all the beings get spiked through the head from some shadowy figure, and it's the ultimate version of Darkseid. That's the big bad. Darkseid is an old character. He's one of the New Gods, I believe. I think he's part of the New Gods, Jack Kirby's New Gods.
Yeah.
And it was just like, and it's a character we already know. Like, the ending screams, change this, retcon it right now, just fix these two panels to make it more generic so people that know, that kind of have a familiarity with DC Comics will understand what we're writing about in the next year. And that kind of pisses me off. That doesn't kind of piss me off.
It pisses me off.
So,
oh Lord,
I just think it's silly. It's like you had this epic, crazy event, and then it's like, and we're back to vanilla. Who wants chocolate ice cream? Like, that's what it feels like. I don't know. Anyway, we'll move on.
We'll see.
All right, next up we've got Crime Syndicate #1. This one, again, not knowing my DC characters or my DC history, this, for me, felt like a genuine #1 because I don't know these characters. I vaguely know the concept. It's basically the Justice League, but they're evil. You know?
All right.
And I thought it was really cool. I'm going to be short on this book. I'll probably tie this in like on YouTube. This will be together with Infinite Frontier, but I actually enjoyed this book. You know, we get a little bit more insight into Ultraman and to Green Lantern and Owlman, and I forget the name of who the one's supposed to be. Wonder Woman. I don't remember her name. Either way, in this book, essentially, we get a little bit of like backstory to these characters again, but then Earth 3 gets invaded by Starro, like an evil Starro. And they all get, like, Ultraman gets possessed, and they got to fight. So the next book is going to be Ultraman and the Wonder Woman character fighting it, which I think was really cool. But there's one part in this book that I was like, oh, shit. So Ultraman is this real piece of shit version of Superman who is more of a dictator rather than a superhero. Mm. And when he gets a Starro on his chest, he gets, like, mind controlled. And he's like, there's, like, people in front of him that are like, oh, Ultraman will save us. And he's like he's saying it under his teeth. He's just like, you better run, because he's being mind controlled. And he literally like is looking away, and he goes, zoom, and he literally lights people on fire. Like people get incinerated, just like. And
there was a little Homelander on him, huh?
But the thing is it wasn't him. It was Starro. Starro was like, and you're gonna kill these people now. And that was my like, oh shit, that was intense. So I enjoyed it. I thought the book was fun. I know some people are more like, oh, we've already read this. Me being a novice DC reader, I thought it was a lot of fun. And Owlman, dude, that guy's an ass too. Like all these guys are just assholes. Like Green Lantern's ring, like talks to him, and he's like, "You're not worth me giving you my power. Like you're basically a pussy, and you just can't be a hero." Like it's intense. It's an intense book. I thought it was fun. I know some people aren't digging it, but I think it's just a fun, and it's a 6 issue limited series, so just a good time. So I enjoyed it.
Nice.
All right, let's get into it. Let's really get into it.
Oh, let's get it, dude.
Yeah, right. Let's get it, dude. So if you have been under a rock the past couple days, there's a new publisher in town called Bad Idea Comics. And wow. They essentially, I think Ron told me that there are only 200 comic book shops in the US. Well, now it's 199 comic shops that only carry this book. And they've got some rules. They basically said, you can carry our books. You can only sell one copy per customer, and you can't sell any of our copies of our books on eBay as your store and price gouge. Mm-hmm. And apparently a comic shop did that, and they got banned. They are no longer carrying Bad Idea books, and they will not get exclusive rights to those books. Me and Nate were lucky enough to get a copy. So we do have this. It's a very sought-after book, but you're not really going to see, you're not going to see any LCSs price gouging this book. You may see individuals that have a copy that are trying to sell this book for...
They definitely are.
an insane amount of money. I don't even know what the highest bid is right now.
There are multiple sold for 150.
Holy shit. Either way, this book is just the concept from Bad Idea is really hot right now. And so if you were lucky enough to get a copy, congrats. Outside of that exclusivity, I think the story is fantastic. I really dug this book. We weren't kidding when we were saying there were a ton of number ones this week. This one was top 5, or not even top 5. I'd say top 3 for sure this week.
No doubt. Also, but I just looked. There's over a dozen that are sold listings that are over $120.
Holy shit. Yeah. Well, there you go.
Ron, I think Ron and Brent both sold out
Oh, no doubt.
of theirs, so they're, you can't find it. So if you didn't pre-order it or you weren't lucky enough to get into the store on Wednesday, you probably won't find one. But that being said,
they're doing more printings of them.
yeah, they will. That being said, so this story, ENIAC #1, is about a computer system that evolves to the point where it becomes self-aware.
Sentient.
Yep. And I believe it starts off in World War II, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it starts off in World War II with a computer, and our scientist is basically feeding it information to anticipate the enemy's moves, their next coordinates of dropping bombs and stuff like that. And the U.S. government gets so greedy that they literally want the equation to win World War II. And so the U.S. government beefs up how much information ENIAC gets in this book to the point where it becomes self-aware, and they lose control of it. And the first representation of them losing control is, so in World War II, there were 2 bombs dropped on Japan, right? The first in this book, they say that the first bomb was actually ordered by the U.S. president to drop. The second one was not. The second bomb, Fat Boy, was dropped by ENIAC. Basically, ENIAC made an order and made it look like it came from higher command, from the chain of command, and the military did it, not knowing that it was actually this computer that did it, not the president.
Yep.
And so at that point, the U.S. government's like, shit, what'd we do? And so this thing, throughout history, what this book does is shows throughout history, ENIAC has been involved in major crises throughout the world that the U.S. has been involved in, right? And we're being told this by the current Secretary of Defense in the middle of the desert, butt-ass naked, telling this to 2 other agents, U.S. agents, who are also naked, because they can't have any electronics around them, because ENIAC can tap into those electronics and spy on you. And so that's what we get in this book. And I don't want to spoil any more into it. I think if you can find this book, or if you get a second printing or third printing, I think you should definitely pick it up. This book is insane.
Yeah, I would say, like, there's a lot of hype around this book. There's a lot of negativity around this book.
Yep.
People, obviously getting a little upset that they weren't able to get a copy. There's also people that are just like saying that Bad Idea themselves have acted in bad faith, saying that they were going to limit shops, and then they didn't limit shops, and they said that, well, they're not going to do more printings. Now they are. And like, I don't know. I don't remember, like, when Bad Idea was initially pitched, I don't know what they said. All of that aside, if you're looking for an awesome comic to read with a really good badass story, that is what this is. Mm-hmm. Don't worry about the first printing and the not first printing. Like, it's a $4 book if you want a cool story to read. This was so close to being my pick of the week.
Same.
So close. Like, it was just, it was a fast-paced, really intriguing story. I had no idea going. Maddie says, so is it the Terminator with Nazis?
It's
leaning that way. It's leaning that way, except
we haven't seen any Nazis yet, but I'm sure they'll come.
Well, it initially killed Nazis.
Well, yes.
Or actually, really what it did was it killed...
no, it killed Japanese people. It killed the emperor. It killed the empire.
Yeah, so not really Nazis, but definitely Terminator-esque. Anyway, the writing's great. The art is fantastic.
And this cover,
not first printing issue.
This cover is fucking fire.
What does it sound like, though? That's what.
Huh? Oh, what does this cover? If this cover could sound like something, you want to know what it sounds like?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
Are you ready for this? If this cover could speak to you, it would sound like this. Yeah, that's what this cover would sound like.
Oh boy,
that shit's fire, dude. Like I didn't Ron talked about Bad Idea. He was like, "Hey, we're gonna have Bad Idea comics." I was like, "Yeah, whatever." And then I saw the cover and I was like, I literally messaged him. I was like, "Hey, are you gonna have this?" And he goes, "Where have you been for 2 months?" I was like, it kind of went from my head. But
Attention, Ron. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Ron. We suck. But that being said, this is awesome, and I'm right there with Nate. This was almost my pick of the week. I literally, like, when we got done with this week, I said, Nate, can we have 4 pick of the weeks? Like, can we have, like, 4? Because I could literally name 4 books in this week's and be like, these are all my pick of the weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if
this
they had
book
been spread out, they definitely would have.
Oh, for sure. So that's ENIAC number 1. Contact your LCS. Let them know, like, hey, do you have this? How can I get it? Will you get second printings? Will you get third printings? Pick it up. It's definitely worth the read, and I will continue. I think this is a 4-parter. And the other thing we didn't.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
We didn't talk about this. I think we talked about it in our YouTube video, but I want to talk about it again real quick. So, in true faith to their name, Bad Idea. The other thing about this book that's just hilarious to us, but probably not to actual people that work at the comic book store, if you didn't watch our YouTube video, the back of the book literally has, I'd say, about 20 UPCs for them to scan. And so if you're trying to scan this book, if you're a comic book shop worker and it's impossible to scan this book. We literally watched Jacob at our place take 5 minutes just trying to scan this book because there are barcodes all over the back of the book. And then the best thing is this guy, it literally has got a bloody nose and lost teeth, and it says Bad Idea. And so, like, they are totally embracing this idea of just sabotaging comic book stores and sabotaging the scalper. I mean, I truly believe that. I think they're kind of, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but I feel like Bad Idea is kind of fed up with this whole, you're not even going to get a copy unless you want to spend, $150. And unfortunately, it's kind of done the reverse effect. And now the only way you're ever going to get a first issue copy, if you didn't get it day one, is spending an outrageous amount of money on eBay from somebody that's scalping you. So,
well, yeah, but you don't need first printing. It's the same thing. No, it doesn't matter.
That's that addiction. That's the addiction that we all know too well.
And the other thing, I don't know if you heard this, but all of their other subsequent printings will not be labeled. So if you see on the very back of this book, it says first printing. All of the rest of the books will say not first printing. So it will be 100% impossible for you to tell if it was a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth. Doesn't matter. You will not be able to tell what printing it is. So there won't be any hype about thinking the second printing or the third printing is more valuable or more rare because it was less numbers. Or the only thing that they're changing to is the first printing is white ENIAC number 1, and then the second, or the not first printing, is black. And every printing after that will be black. So there will be no difference in cover, no
That's
extra.
That's interesting, because I think Ron already had, if I'm not mistaken, he was already given those.
They also released first printings and not second printings on day one.
Holy shit.
Because they went to press on the initial orders and then got delayed. And so they opened them back up to reordering. And they said, once we do orders, those are the first printings. So by the time they got to the stores, they had already printed enough. It took so much to print that they had to give them first printings and not first printings.
Holy shit. That's crazy. Mm-hmm. All right, well, that's ENIAC number 1. We highly, outside of the drama, or not even outside of the drama, we recommend this book. I think you should definitely, if you can get your hands on another printing, do it. It's worth the read.
Definitely.
All right, Nocterra number 1, another, for me, contender for pick of the week.
I wonder if this might be my pick of the week.
Dude, I think those 3 books on your shelf probably tell the story. Is this your pick of the week?
This is my pick of the week, yeah. Let me
It's Nate's pick of the week.
So, yeah, I got cover A, which is nice, nice, beautiful cover A.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
Mm-hmm.
I got cover D, which is the Greg Capullo cover.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really like that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then I oopsed And then I got the 1 in 50, which Ron was selling for a ridiculously good price. So I had to pick that one up. I don't know the artist on this one. I honestly I really enjoyed the scratchy, like, pastel thing to that one.
Well,
This
tell
is
us about this.
This is not a spec, by the way. I just really love this story.
No. And I think you're totally. We all oops for time to time. You are correct, James. I oops all the time.
All the time.
All the time.
That's why he has so many pairs of brown shorts.
Maddie, that'll be our last book, but you also probably should read this book too, and Nate will convince you why.
Yes.
So
Totally.
how about you break it down?
Will I?
Yes. Break it down.
I mean, okay. So this book reads like a movie. It is
100%.
Yeah, it is. It is very fast paced. It is very full throttle, but I also think that you get a lot of information.
Mm-hmm.
Basic premise of this book is one day the sun goes out. There is no more sun. And if you are not in light, artificial light of some kind, for I think they say 10 hours, your biology starts to change. You start to morph into this this something monstrous.
Demon looking like mutant.
And so basically we get a quick glimpse of our main character here as a child when the darkness first happens. And then the majority of the story follows her as an adult. She's basically a trucker that ferries people from one refuge to the other. And, she's got to keep everyone in light at all times. So the entire truck has lights everywhere. There's like Christmas lights strewn everywhere on the inside of the truck. Everyone has lights hanging from their bodies in some capacity. And as she's driving to her destination, one of the passengers in the back just freaks out and was like, I can't do this. I got to get out of here. And opens the back of the 18-wheeler. And the absolute second that she opens the back, just like a hand just comes out of nowhere and yanks her into the oblivion.
They're going like 60 miles an hour. Like, where was she going?
So yes, I read this book twice because I enjoyed it so much. This is one flaw in the book. It makes no goddamn sense.
No, that's the only part. Yeah, I agree with you.
No reason why this person would just say, I can't be here anymore. I'm going to jump out into the darkness. It doesn't make any sense. But it was a way to introduce the creatures in the dark. Introduce, what's out there. And they're pretty fucked up looking. They're pretty demonic, pretty gross. Our main character basically throws the truck into autopilot, jumps on the roof, and runs back there and jumps into the bed of the truck and finds that one of these I think it used to be like a big bird or something is back in the truck, and it's eating that girl, right? I think it's eating that girl.
Yeah, it's pretty gross.
But she's able to fight it off, and
it sounds like this.
That's exactly what it sounds like. But she's able to fight it off, and even though she gets thrown from the truck, it's right outside her refuge, which is a town in Colorado. I can't remember which town, but town in Colorado. They shine these really, really, really massive spotlights, and she's able to make it into the city.
Yep.
So, honestly, I don't want to give too much away here. There's definitely a subplot involving her and her brother, which gives you your driving factor for the reason why she is trying to get to a particular town, trying to get money.
Well, we can say this. There's a town, there's like a myth town that apparently has access to like natural sunlight, right?
And so there's this myth amongst the community that this place exists. So that's her goal in the sense that like she's trying to get to this place for some reason. We don't know why. You do in the book, you find out. But there's this place that exists that has access to resources that either emit natural light or create something that can help individuals stay in the light. That's what we'll say.
Yeah, I think her motivation is more the money, because she buys something.
Right.
Either way, you get a lot of world building. I feel like I really got a feel for the town of what it's like to live in this place that's always in darkness. We find out that our character is adopted and was actually born blind. And she had cataracts, so she was actually able to have those removed. And when she was 5 years old, she had the cataracts removed, and so she was able to see again. And then when she was 10 years old, the sun went out, and so
back to being blind.
Yeah, she very much says that she feels like she, had like this paradise for a little bit and then lost it once again. But the issue ends with her taking a grandfather and granddaughter, along with her brother in the truck with her, to this supposed city that has all of these, unbelievable resources. And just as they're taking off, this guy that is totally blacked out, basically goes into her employer and says, I need to know where this truck is going, not because he's trying to find her, but because he's trying to find the old man that's in the truck. And they're like, why are you trying to find this old man? And there's like, he's the one that killed the son, and we're all gonna bank and pay for it. And there's like a bunch of hoodlums behind him that looks like they're all gonna go beat the shit out of this old man.
So I'll jump on more of your analysis in the sense that this book is paced so fucking well. You never, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to read a comic and be like, oh, I'm reading a comic, but this book, you hit the nail right on the head. It reads like a movie, and you get completely enveloped in this book. Like, I'm right there with you. It world built so well, and it made me want to. I mean, the fact in one issue, it made you care about the characters, cared about their situation, and had multiple oh shit moments. Like that last character at the end, like, dude, talk about a really crazy looking baddie. Like,
yeah,
he talks about the process of him being turned completely blacked out, and it's very painful. And like this one guy's like, why are you stepping into our space? And he's like, oh, I'll show you, and puts his hand like on the dude's face, and his face starts burning off. And you're just like, ooh, you don't want to fuck with this dude. Like this is the Boba Fett of Nocterra. Like you just don't want to fuck with this guy. And I'll also say I really dig her helmet, the helmet with the ring on it.
Oh yeah.
And her brother at the end of the issue shows his like suit. Dude, it's like total Daft Punk vibes. Like, fucking love it.
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Dude, that makes me sad. I watched an entire like Daft Punk live concert today, and I was just like, I'm almost hoping like in a year they'll be like, we're back. I really hope that happens. But I digress. So again, this is Nathan's pick of the week.
Yes, it is.
All right, our last book, Maddie. This is the one you've been waiting for. Hopefully, you're still here. This is the comic book that was co-written with Keanu Reeves. BRZRKR #1 from Boom Studios.
My third pick of the week.
Yep. The CEO over at Boom, he knows what he's doing. Mm-hmm. He is landing #1s left and right, and this one is no exception. This one is fucking killer. Literally.
I just want to point out Matt Kint, who's the co-writer of this book with Keanu Reeves, who probably did the majority of the writing. he must be having a badass week this week because he also is the writer of ENIAC. So he must be having a really good week this week.
Dude's on fire. So I don't want to spoil this book. We're gonna do a 5 to maybe 8 minute review. But let's just say that if you're into heads exploding, arms being ripped off,
what about heads exploding because they're getting hands punched straight through them and eyeballs popping out?
Exactly. If that's literally that should be like Berserker, heads blowing up because fists going through them. Like that should be the descriptor for this book. But I will say, like there are things in this book.
Ooh.
Yeah, no shit. There are things in this book that are just insane, and I picked up my books on Wednesday. I read all of them until this one, and it was super late, and I was like, I'm going to bed. And Nate's like, hey, have you read Berserker yet? And I was like, no, I was going to wait until the morning. He's like, yeah, get your ass back up in your media room and read it. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And you're like, be prepared. And literally like 2 pages in, it's just like, bleh, just...
I mean,
I don't know, man.
I don't want to keep saying all the violent things, but I do want to share one more, just because I think this is one that will really convince you if this is your kind of book. A man gets killed because he is impaled through the throat by a rib ripped out of another man, and then that rib is shoved through his throat. Then I actually believe that the same man that gets the rib through the throat has his arm ripped off.
Yep. I was gonna say
as a bludgeon. So
yeah. I'd say about 2/3 of this book is just straight up violence, and then we get backstory. And it's I also think that this book is very well paced, and during the violent bits, it's just violence. Like it's not. There's not a lot of deposition. It's just fucking action. And, if the best way another way to describe this book is John Wick if he was a god. That's what this is. And I've never seen a John Wick movie, but I've seen the fight scenes.
Yeah.
I've seen the fight scenes, and that's exactly what this book is. Like, it's fucking intense, and it's really good, though. Like, I enjoyed it thoroughly. And just like Nathan said, he has there are 4 books this week that I want to make my pick of the week. And, this is one of them. And go to your LCS, pick up this book. I'm sure they have it. They also had
2 copies of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Boom did a 1 in 1,000 variants. I think there are only 56 of them. And so, that one's out there too, if you want to spend a shit ton of money on number 1. The interesting thing about this is Keanu did an interview already. I don't know who with, but he basically said like he would love to see this project actually turn into a movie, and I could totally see it. Like I could see Netflix picking this up, and we say this every time Boom comes out with a number 1. Pick up Boom number 1s, even if you're not going to read them. Pick them up, put them in a Mylar, and put them away.
See, I would actually disagree on this one.
Why?
Because there's going to be so many of them printed. There's going to be so many of them already graded. I bet you within 2 months from now, there will be like 300 to 400 9.8s already out there.
Okay, well then get a variant.
Covers. There's so many different variants.
Get a ratio variant.
Pick this book up to read it. No, pick this book up to read it. This is not a spec book. I'm telling you, it's not a spec book. You're not going to make any money off of this thing. Don't.
Never know.
Well, I mean, if you want to pick up one $4 book or $5 in this case, and you think that's a spec, that's fine. But I'm telling you, you're not going to make big money off of this book. I'm calling it now.
Okay, you may not make big money, but at least you can say you've got a spec book that might turn into a movie.
Or just read your comics, goddammit.
Well, that too. I'm not saying.
No,
I'm not
you're
giant
just a speculator. That's all you are.
Right. Yeah.
You
That's
sell your books. You buy books to sell. You don't ever eat them.
Excuse me?
Excuse me?
I'm saying it because it's not true.
It's not. I've never sold one book. Now that might change. Like, shout out. I just finished my Savage She-Hulk run. Who knows? I might sell that. You never know. But either way, pick up this. It's a good read. It's a really good story. It's a really good story.
James says that he is now panning the camera to the left and seeing your stack of 300 Berserker #1.
Mm-hmm.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's why he's hyping it up, man.
I'm hyping it up because it's just a kick-ass book, but
It is a absolutely wonderful book.
either way, go pick it up. It's a good fun read. Obviously, don't if you have kids, don't let them read this because this will literally fuck them up.
Nah, I totally show this to my daughter.
No, you would not.
Yeah, but
Holy shit! That's
did you get cover A on this?
yes, it did.
I at first was like, I don't know which one I want. I was like, I'll just grab A, but then, oh god, it just went blank.
Wow, dude.
But instead, I got cover B. I got the
Cover B.
Mark Brooks variant, and I really like this one.
That's a good cover too. Yeah.
On me.
Well, either way, go pick up Berserker with no vowels, and it's a good time. It's a really good time. I could not endorse it any more than I already have. But with that being said, that's our show. Had a good time. Again, if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, ring that bell. I would much appreciate it. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we're slowly getting there. Our community is growing. Also, if you're interested in our Two Fat Guys Pool List Mystery Pool, just go to brainycomics.com, where I think we're the 5th option. And again, we're giving away a 9.8 graded Department of Truth #1. And also, your store exclusive will be a Neil Adams Joker #1 variant. So anyone that subscribes in the month of March will get this for sure, including your 4 to 7 other comic books and a possible win at a slap. So thanks, guys, again for watching the show. We appreciate it. We love doing this. And again, watching on YouTube, subscribe. Also, we do have a YouTube, and we do have exclusive content there. So go check out our YouTube page. We do our weekly polls. We'll do solicitations. We might start doing DC. Who knows? Or we might just talk about some DC books. But we're trying to constantly generate new content over on our YouTube page, not just our show. So we'll have solicitations, weekly polls, hauls. We're talking about possibly seeing if we can talk to maybe somebody from CBCS about their grading and how they grade. I got to talk to Ron about that. But we're going to try to continuously get new content over on our YouTube page. So, again, thanks for watching. Read some comics. And most importantly, please go wear a mask when you're out in public. We need everybody to protect each other. So,
Yep.
We'll see you guys later.
Peace.